asked about this in a press conference, and you were asked whether some of this might go to Hezbollah and Hamas, and your response was, we had no delusions that they will just use this to build daycare centers. Then I want to ask you, Mr. President, where do you think the rest of the money is going to go? Do you think it's acceptable for the United States to allow that sort of money if it is going to go to Hamas and Hezbollah? And why, Mr. President, can you ever negotiate a deal while abandoning these beautiful men left behind? That is not what America is all about. You understand who it is. This is Robert Levinson, who was held for over 3,059 days. His family has no idea of his whereabouts. Jason Razian, a Washington Post reporter who was just doing his job. Saeed Abedini, who is just practicing his Christian faith. And Amir Hakmati, what is wrong that you have forgotten about the little people? That is not what America is all about. That is not the America that I grew up believing in. The America that I grew up believing was one of intellectual honesty and moral integrity. And when America does not take that place on the top of the moral mountaintop, there are many, many other nefarious creatures, such as Khamenei and Putin, that are swooping in to fill the void. I just want to say one more thing, and that is that in the words of Winston Churchill, whose bust you immediately returned upon entering office to the great state of Great Britain, you were left with the choice of dishonor or war. You chose dishonor, and we will get there. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much to Brittany and CWA for organizing this event today. I'm a former Pentagon spokesman, and as the foreign policy advisor to Governor Mike Huckabee, I'm here to represent the governor today. He's out campaigning in California, but he sends his thanks to you for being here today, because it's so important that we stand up to the White House and we stand up to their catastrophic decision to allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. This deal will allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. The White House says it won't. That is just false. And the reason it's false is because it allows Iran to keep their nuclear program intact. The UN has passed 6 security resolutions to forbid Iran from enriching uranium. But you know what? Under this accord, they're still enriching uranium. Any nation that can enrich uranium can get a nuclear weapon. And this is how we know. There are 30 countries around the world with nuclear power plants. Of those 30 countries, about 20 buy the enriched uranium on the market. The 10 that enrich uranium all have nuclear weapons or are covered under the U.S. nuclear security umbrella. That's how we know Iran will get a nuclear weapon. Secretary Kerry's on the Hill today saying that we will know if Iran cheats. How will we know if Iran cheats? How will we know if Iran cheats if they have 24 days to grant inspectors? Prime Minister Netanyahu was saying the other day that, could you imagine a drug dealer with a lab saying, okay, we're going to inspect your lab. Not today, in 24 days. You think you'd find drugs there? No. Of course not. Of course not. So this will pave the way for Iran to get a nuclear weapon. This is Peace in Our Time Part 2. Back in 1938, the British Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain, sat down with Adolf Hitler in Munich. And he said, well, you know what? If you want a third of Czechoslovakia, we don't want war, we're just going to give it to you. What happened the next year? Hitler invaded Poland. 60 million people died in World War II, including 6 million Jews in the Holocaust, because Neville Chamberlain didn't have the courage to stand up to Adolf Hitler. So why would we think that this Islamic regime in Iran, that's their name, the Islamic Republic of Iran, why would they be any less likely to be less aggressive now that we've given them everything they want? The Iranian leaders, the Ayatollah, they chant death to America. It's not a one-off. They've been doing it since 1979. It's a totalitarian, supremacist, aggressive regime, just like Nazi Germany was. Why do we think they would behave any differently now that they've got everything they want? It makes no sense on its face. And so I think that we have to push back on the White House. We have to free our American hostages. It's a disgrace. We have 4 Americans locked up and tortured in Iranian prisons, and the president wants to just say, well, that's not part of the deal. How dare he? How dare he leave these Americans in Iranian prisons? Welcome, Penny. Thanks so much for being here, and let's keep pushing against the White House. The Senate needs 67 votes to block this bill, so we have to work with the Congress, work with the Senate. We got to get these 67 votes. Thanks, Penny. God bless you.
Thank you. Represent him today.
I will, thank you.
Concerned Women for America will be lighting up the phones at Capitol Hill, pushing back on this deal, and we will be wearing our yellow ribbons, remembering and praying for the 4 Americans left behind. We're going to continue with our speakers. I'm going to ask Faith McDonald to come up, and then I'm going to bring Jenny Beth up next. Been so patient. Thank you, Faith.
That's quite all right, but I'm really not that patient, at least with some people.